was born in
Rock City Network's coming to you from Adelphia Studios here in Fitzroy, and we have a special couple of interviews for you actually today. Joining me, James Blundell and Nick Barker. Now, gentlemen, you are here rehearsing for the ultimate jam session.
It's retitled the Ultimate Rock and Roll Jam
Oh,
Session.
it's been retitled now?
Right.
Okay, the Ultimate Rock and Roll Jam Session.
Right.
All right, so just to clear it up, what it's about is a day, I think it was December 4, 1956.
Correct. It was a Tuesday.
Sun Recording Studios.
Sun Studios, Sam Phillips in Memphis, that's correct.
And now the day was based on what was it, Elvis, Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Johnny Cash.
What it was a Carl Perkins recording session that was scheduled for that day.
But they crashed.
Jerry Lee Lewis was the house piano player at the time.
Yeah.
And the name, I don't know what the rhythm section's name was, but it was just basically a house band. Carl Perkins was turning up to have for a session, and Johnny Cash and Elvis just sort of wandered in.
Yeah.
And I reckon they probably would have got a few beers and basically just kind of started mucking around, and Sam Phillips kind of recorded the whole thing. And if you listen to it, it's as loose as a goose, like it's just all over the joint.
Yeah, there's a lot of chat during it. I guess it's just a running recording. It's not really anything set for a release, so to speak.
That's exactly right. And I think that one of the things that have been a pain to point out, because this show is not a tribute show. It's not like doing this really clean version of that. It's very much about the band all just having crack. It's good fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've tried to kind of remain true to the day itself rather than the kind of
Sanitised version.
Well, yeah, it's not like, hi, I'm playing Carl Perkins and James is doing Elvis and Dave, blah, blah, blah. We've tried to take that jam session thing and put it into a stage show, which is not an easy thing to do because, you don't want it to be so fucking loose. So loose that people just go, gee, what a load of crap, and want their money back. But you still want it to appear like you're kind of having fun and mucking around with it. Yeah. Which is what the essence of a jam session is, pretty much.
Well, you've got your writer, Jim McPherson, and you have your producer also is
Simon Wyatt.
Simon, yes. Yeah. And that's a great building block to have behind the show. You've also got Shannon, Steve, and Dave as your backing band for the Sun Studio Trio.
Well, it's a killer trio. All of us, Nick and I both work a lot solo when we're not working with bands put together for a specific project now. And it's great to be with a trio because it opens up the music so much. This young guy, Ezra Lee, on the piano, when you get a chance to see the show, he's a prodigy. He's fantastic, and he's the real deal. He's got all that sort of really rolling right-hand stuff going on. It's good music. We're having a ball.
Yeah.
Dave Larkin, the same. He's fantastic. You'll talk with him in a bit.
Dave, yes, well...
He's one out of the box, that one, isn't he?
How you dealing with Dave at the moment?
I got him the gig. Me and Dave are old mates. Yeah, but no, he's funny. Once again, this whole jam session idea, it's an eclectic mix of people. You would never get James Blundell, Nick Barker, Ezra Lee and Dave Larkin just in a band together, would you? Unless it was kind of, what I mean? Especially, you got this real mix of things and it works really, really well. And it's good. It's good because, in Australia, you tend to stay in your comfort zone a lot, So it's good fun for us to be thrown out of that and try and make it a bit of our own. I wouldn't like to do something where I was just been a tribute band, It's kind of always, there's always been that real line in the sand in Australian music. You do covers or you do original, never the twain shall meet. Yeah. And I find that whole tribute thing to be pretty much like that, but this is something different altogether.
I think that's great fun. It's a brilliant excuse to play these songs because we were talking about this the other day. The reason they last so well is they were really well written in the first place, and they were played really well, and there were no precedent set. This is all really, really avant-garde music for its time. Yeah. So you bring your own attitude forward as an original artist, and you find a real joy in just getting through it. And they're simple, and they're catchy, and they're not lightweight pop. They've got some real teeth to them.
And you can hook into them. It's like they don't. The songs, especially some of the ones I sing, like the Carl Perkins ones, are just you can really let them have their head, and they're like all right, because a lot of them are just 12 bars, So, which is great because some songs you just can't rock them out. You know what I mean? Like they suffer because these ones you can. So
I was very interested. How did the four of you actually get together on this project?
Personally, I'm not sure at Nick's entry point, but I'd been playing a solo show up in Brisbane, and Simon, the producer, came in to watch that, and then he came up at the end of that, and with a guy called Andrew Barker, who he works with. And they said, look, we're doing the Man in Black show, and Tex Perkins is the lead of that. Would you like to come watch it? And I've been a fan of Texas for ages, so I thought that'd be really cool. But even going into the theatre, I thought, I don't know whether I really want to watch Tex Perkins pretending to be Johnny Cash for 2 hours. And I got to the end of that realising that's not what it was about at all. Tex is a great frontman going through the history and the music and the story of Cash's life, which is an intriguing story. Left the theatre, that was a place called 12th Night up in Brisbane, and saw Simon afterwards. Said that was a fantastic piece of theatre. Actually moved to the point of tears a couple of times. It hadn't happened for ages. And he said, look, we're thinking of doing some more stuff. I think mostly because I related, mate. You know, and Cash was running amok. And I'm going, oh, I feel your pain, dude. But Simon said, we're thinking of doing some other work. Would you be interested? And I said, if it's along those lines, absolutely. Because it is theatre. It's got a real show to it. And then when this came up, and given the nature of the people, because I've lived in Nashville and I've been to Memphis, done some studios, huge Presley fan, obviously know Cash's work inside out. Again, I'd spent time in a dressing room with Johnny Cash and Carl Perkins, early 90s over in the States, so I had an immediate involvement with both guys. And the concept came together beautifully. I said, sure. And I don't know, how did you get involved?
How did you do it?
Your manager.
Ah, good. He's a good manager. I like that. Neil Richards, good man.
Yeah, Neil rang me up about doing some shows with another one of his guys he manages, Paul Green, and just he suggested me to Simon because I think he was obviously, he just wanted to have really great people around you. I think James, you know, that was his. No, but I mean, yeah. So he and I went and had a chat to Simon and just, I mean, it was just. Sometimes it's really nice just to get your teeth into something else than your own music, you know, because sometimes, you know, your head gets so full of what you're doing, it's nice to step out of it. And once again, you know, I went and saw Man in Black, and once I walked away from that and realised that it wasn't a tribute show, and it was like the whole narrating thing, which is what we do in this as well. It's really insightful, and I think, you know, people. I didn't really know much about that day at all until I did this, and it's kind of to actually tell that story to people is A, quite difficult, and B, but worth telling because it's more about Sam Phillips than it is more about those guys, you know. So.
Now, what was your, I guess, your initial thoughts when you found out when all four of you were booked for the show and you knew who you were going to perform with? Let's go through Dave first initially.
I'd heard of Dallas Crane, and I knew Dave Larkin. I kept hearing Dave's name and just going, no, I don't know this guy at all. And then Nick had said, you know, he's a good bloke, and personal reference is always a pretty good place to start because I know he's a fairly hard marker. But Dave's just a delight. He came in within 5 minutes. I was in stitches going, that is a funny man, just incidentally a funny man. Great guitar player, great singer. But Ezra, again, I'd heard Ezra's name like bits and pieces, and because I knew Nick's background a lot. You know, we'd had a conversation some 20-odd years ago, and I already thought he was a pretty good bloke, or at least he had an opinion about things, which was great, you know. And I think there was when we all turned up the first day, and it was a big narrative dialogue and lots of music, and we're all going, oh, let's, you know, we had a finite period of time to get it right in. So we're all pretty tentative, and you know, it's hard to put yourself out in front of people that you haven't worked with before and going, I'm out of my comfort zone. I don't usually do talking. I do singing and playing, and you know. But it was really good. And I think because we all came in on pretty much the same level, we all sort of came up at about the same time. So there's a real sense of, I hate buzzwords, but there's a unity to it that comes from everybody sort of making themselves vulnerable at the same time, which is good.
Definitely chemistry.
What about yourself, Nick?
Well, I sort of, I mean, as James said, I mean, I'm familiar with James's work. Didn't know Ezra from a bar of soap, you know. Obviously, I went straight on Google, sussed him out, and you know, he's the real thing, you know. The guy's he's Johnny Johnson, you know, like he really can play. These boys I know, the band I know well, and Dave obviously, you know, is one of my peer group in Melbourne musician, so I knew him and James and the band, and I knew of Ezra. What I didn't know was whether it was all going to click. That was the thing, and it was, you know, 2 weeks of pretty hard work, and then we did a show, and you know, it's that old saying, saved by rock, and you do get a little bit, you know, it really takes over, and I think that's, you know, musicians like myself and James and Dave, you know, as a rule don't like being in rehearsal rooms, you know. It's a place you were when you were 17 and you don't want to go back into them, you know. So we did a lot of time in rehearsal rooms and learning the lines and taking direction, and then it was like, thank Christ we can just get on stage and do our thing. So, and once we did that, it all sort of went bang, it made sense,
Getting the first show out of the road was a massive turning point, you know, because I don't know about anybody else, but standing aside of stage, it's just really dry mouth going, I haven't been this nervous for years. You know? It's great, you know.
And you kind of fuck around with music that people really, really love, especially the Elvis stuff.
Yeah.
People don't muck around with that, like, and the kind of audience we're playing to, there's people there, obviously they're just interested in seeing the whole thing, but there are some bona fide fans in the audience, and you don't want to get any of your facts wrong, or your lyrics, or your songs, or especially about Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
I mean, Carl Perkins, you can probably get away with a bit. Johnny Cash, certainly, and Ezra's all over Jerry Lee, but the Elvis stuff, you can watch people, just their whole attitude changes when you start
watching the crowd in there.
Watching for a mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see the arms slowly? That must be a good sign. The arms slowly unfold as the show goes on.
We had a classic at the second Frankston show. There was a guy with a big beard, and you try so hard not to dwell on the people in the crowd. You're going like they're not enjoying it, because it's a skill you learn over the years. Don't concentrate on the negative ones, you know.
Yeah.
And he was just sitting there, totally still face. And by the end of it, he's doing this. I thought we must have won one over, you know. He's away. So
that's always a good sign.
Yeah.
Now, gentlemen, I'll wrap it up because we've got to talk to Dave and Ezra as well, and you are rehearsing today, so time is precious. I just did want to ask you a few things. Let's get into some fun facts here, or more so questions. If you had, let's say, 3 songs each to pick from, these songs you're playing, all due respect, but if you had 3 songs of your own to pick from, if you were going to go into a jam session, what would they be?
Of our own music?
Of your own music, or anything you'd like to pick yourself?
God, good question. Go first, Barker. I'll have a bit of a think. Or were you thinking? Sorry.
If we had to walk into a jam session with 3 songs, anything by the Stones would be one.
Yep.
Anything in E. Anything with 4 chords or less, I guess, If it was going to be a successful jam session.
Sure.
I never tire of playing Joni Mitchell's Big Yellow Taxi, but I do it as a really fangy acoustic sort of rock thing, which is great. Probably chuck one of my own in there for the fun of playing it with people, and just because the fun part about a jam session, you've never heard this song in your life. It's got 4 chords in it. It starts in E, and by the end of it, you've got it kind of right. So.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, something from the band, probably Up on Cripple Creek, or just one of those great, just 3-chord great feel sort of things. But just anything with a good chorus and a good feel.
What about now? As I've read, Elvis walked in with then girlfriend or arm candy at the time, Marilyn Evans.
Yep.
She's actually cropped out of the photo, the original photo.
It's good to get the name, because I knew she was cropped out. I had no idea what her name was.
Who would your Marilyn Evans be if she was going to be sitting on the piano right now?
Mate, I've lost enough houses. I'm not. I'll say Jessie Curran.
Yeah.
My girlfriend, Shah.
Oh, perfect. Look at that. I didn't want to get you in any trouble, but it could be anybody at all. What about? Let's go one more here.
Ask Ezra that question.
Well, I'm gonna have to ask him. Yeah, definitely for sure. Okay, one more thing before I let you go. Have you ever been in this situation before yourself, where you've just found yourself around musicians jamming, where you've felt like it's a really special experience, not dissimilar?
I don't know what. I'm really interested in Nick's response to this. The last time that I had this was rehearsing early bands, in my sort of early to mid-20s, when it was all brand new, and you'd walk into a studio and be the most inexperienced musician in the room, and this is a lot like that. It's great because Melbourne musos have got a different headspace to both Sydney and Queensland musicians, and as a Queenslander, we're all really robust. You just get in there and it doesn't matter if you stuff it up, but these guys are really good, and all of a sudden you go, actually they're good, I'm going to have to lift, and so that part of it takes you back to being a young musician, which is great.
What about yourself, Nick?
I think the last time, I don't know if you'd call it a jam session, but it was probably the last time I was drunk at a sound check. I was at a piano player at the time, Matt, and he knew every song of all my favourite artists, and he knew everything by Neil Young. So I just started drinking, and he didn't drink, and he just was playing, and I ended up just sort of lying on the piano. We did the whole of Tonight's the Night by Neil Young, and I was just, and by 7 o'clock sound check, they were kicking us out of the bar, and I was blinded, but it was great fucking fun, you know.
Yeah, good stuff.
That'd be a good one for the jam session. You'd have to have a Neil Young song in there.
Good stuff, definitely. All right, gentlemen, well, thank you very much. Nick Barker, James Blundell, you guys have been fantastic. If you want any more information on the show, you can go to boldjack.com.au, get out there and see the shows. I'm looking forward to it myself.
Good fun.
And let's have a chat to Ezra and Dave. Enjoy the rehearsals as much as you can. And go grab them for me, Nick. We'll talk to you soon.
Come along and drink up. The more you drink, the better we
will.
sound.
We'll see you this week. James Blundell, Nick Barker. It's Rock City Networks. I'm waiting for the next two.
Yeah, I don't need a